A young blonde boy with red eyes cries sorrowfully. A white-haired girl shouts that Hachania does not cry. While the blonde boy denies his tears, she punishes him with 100 sword swings. Under the command to conduct, the blonde boy and a white-haired boy begin their punishment with wooden swords. The white-haired girl watches silently as the two boys train in the distance. She stands thoughtfully on a large rock with her arms crossed. She delivers a dire warning to the boys, stating that the Estra family will be wiped out if they fail. The scene shifts to a grand and imposing mansion. A man with purplish hair rushes in frantically, shouting for the sir and madam. A black-haired man kneeling beside the small white-haired girl is stunned by the news that the madam's ship has capsized. As the girl's stuffed rabbit falls from her hands, the man reels from the devastating report. He curses inwardly while the little girl, now holding her rabbit, looks up in confusion. As her father is led away in a daze, the girl narrates her own sense of disorientation. With a tear rolling down her cheek, she calls out uncertainly, "Dad?" Her father turns back, his pained expression softening as he calls her Rini. He pulls Rini into a tight embrace, reassuring her not to worry. He tenderly wipes away her tears, offering a gentle smile. An aide watches somberly as the father continues to comfort his daughter. The aide reports that pirates targeting Empress Inez were behind the attack. Upon hearing the news, the father's eyes burn with cold fury. The name Inez triggers a shocking realization for Rini. A ghostly silhouette of a woman in a flowing white dress appears behind the startled girl. A vision of a modern city flashes before her, and she feels her blurred thoughts sharpening into focus. She grabs her father's collar in shock, shouting Gaspar, startling him. He calmly confirms with a gentle smile that Gaspar is his name. Rini stares up at him, rendered speechless by the confirmation. Overwhelmed, she collapses onto the floor with a soft thud. As her father questions her sudden action, she realizes she knows his name from her past life. A formal portrait of Gaspar shows the stern man she remembers from the novel. She recalls that he was an insignificant extra villain, whose name was removed from the novel she read. She panics at the thought of being just a supporting character, trying to deny the horrifying truth. The full realization hits. She is the daughter of an extra who never even appears in the main story. A memory of her past life surfaces, showing her as a special agent at a shooting range. The empty shooting range stands as a quiet testament to her previous life. A bloody hand reaches out as her past life ends with words of praise for her hard work. Her eyes widen as she realizes she'd been living this happy life with no memory of her past. She recalls a grim prophecy from the novel. Gaspar's daughter, Leonora, is fated to die from illness at 18. Noticing her strange mood, Gaspar instructs a maid to keep a close watch on Rini. She feels a pang of sadness, realizing how much her outwardly cold father truly cared for her. Rini sits alone, her expression filled with quiet determination. Her mind races, unable to process the novel's plot unfolding around her. A long, sunlit hall stretches out before her. She approaches a grand set of doors and pushes them open with purpose. Inside, two boys, one blonde, one white-haired, look up from their books in surprise as one calls her name. With her arms outstretched, Rini calls to them with urgency, "Enoch, Sylvie." A moment of transition follows her urgent call. A desperate Enoch begins to plead with a worried-looking girl. The memory of Enoch crying among sunflowers flashes by. Rini watches Enoch silently, awaiting his words. To his surprise, she gives a simple, firm answer. No. She repeats her lecture that the Hakania clan must not cry and, despite his denial, orders him to practice with his sword. The white-haired boy is questioned about why he's shouting, "Practice!" Following a booming command to practice, the two boys flinch in surprise. From afar, the white-haired girl silently watches the two boys clumsily practice their sword swings. She stands on a large rock with her arms crossed, wondering when they will ever mature. A transitional panel shows the boys' determined faces, noting they have a long way to go. The scene shifts with a soft pink hue. Surrounded by roses, the girl thinks with grim determination that if she fails, her family will perish. The scene shifts to a grand mansion, as she recalls realizing she was reincarnated into a novel. A frantic aide bursts into the room, shouting for the sir. As her stuffed rabbit falls, the black-haired man is stunned by the news that the madam's ship has capsized. He reels from the report, wondering how this could be. As the girl clutches her rabbit, her father demands more information. She quietly questions the news about her mom and the capsized ship. She narrates a sense of déjà vu as her dazed father is led away. As a tear falls, she calls out to her dad. He turns, his expression softening as he says her name, Rini. He pulls Rini into a tight embrace, promising her that her mother, Noel, will return. Held in his arms, she realizes her mother's name for the first time. Looking up at him, she suddenly wonders what her father's name is. He smiles gently at her touch, asking if she's trying to comfort him. An aide interrupts to deliver more news to the sire. The aide reports that the pirate's true target was Empress Ines. The father internally seethes, blaming the Empress for traveling with Noel. He then catches himself, recalling that the Empress also has a young daughter. A jolt goes through Rini as she asks if he's certain it was Empress Ines. The name triggers a vision of a regal woman in a flowing dress. As a modern city flashes before her eyes, her thoughts begin to clear. Memories of her past life, including a novel on a phone, come flooding back. In a daze, she grabs her father's collar and shouts his name, Gaspar. He's surprised but pleased she can finally say his name, despite the strange timing. Surrounded by dark roses, he calmly confirms that Gaspar is his name. Rini stares up at him, rendered utterly speechless by the confirmation. Thump! She collapses, overwhelmed by the sudden return of her memories as her father cries out her name. She fully recalls her father's name and the world she now inhabits. A formal portrait shows the man she now knows as Gaspard Désiré de Hachania. She remembers him as a minor villain from a novel whose name was removed early in the story. The devastating realization hits her. She is nothing more than a side character. She realizes she's the daughter of an insignificant villain who never even appeared in the main story. She remembers her past life as a special agent working for a secret organization. A memory of an empty shooting range surfaces, a place where she once dreamed of being loved by a family. She recalls her lonely past, wishing she could have lived in a normal family. Bang! The memory of her death returns, betrayed and killed by her adoptive father. Her eyes widen as she understands she'd been living happily with no memory of her past life. A chilling memory from the novel surfaces. Leonora, Gaspar's daughter, is fated to die from an incurable disease at 19. Her thoughts continue to race as the grim prophecy sinks in. She overhears Gaspar telling a maid and an aide to take better care of her due to her poor health. Gaspar somberly reflects that the entire Hachania family is fated to die. Clenching her fists, Rini vows not to let her life repeat its tragic course, feeling her father's love. She sits with a newfound, steely resolve now that she remembers everything. She decides that she will not allow the novel's plot to unfold as written. Tap, tap, tap. She walks down a long hall with purpose, 2 clear goals now in her mind. Her first priority is clear and simple: she needs to survive. Her second, equally vital goal is to ensure the entire Hachania family survives with her. With her arms thrown wide, she stands resolutely before the large double doors. Inside, 2 boys look up from their reading, the white-haired one calling out her name in surprise as she recognizes them as her brothers. She urgently calls out to them both by name, Enoch and Sylvie. Filled with a new purpose, she knows she has to help them. She admits to herself that her plan is reckless, as she currently has no immediate solution. The blonde boy, Enoch, rushes to her side, worriedly asking if she is hurt anywhere. She recalls a line from the novel describing the blonde boy as soft as melted honey, a reincarnated human. He is formally introduced as her third brother, Enoch Gwendal de Hachania. The white-haired boy, her second brother, Sylvester Edgar de Hachania, complains of a stomachache. Sitting between her 2 handsome brothers, she finally accepts that she is truly living inside a novel. She realizes that if they are the main characters, they will soon remember their past lives and their journey back in time. Sylvester thinks to himself that his life has been completely separate from the novel's plot until now. He continues his thought, recalling that he's fated to disappear, before announcing that his fever seems to have gone. He gently places a hand on Rini's forehead to check her temperature. Rini laments her fate, questioning why she must die just because she's a minor character. A man named Mr. Beristan calls for Enoch and Sylvester, telling them it's time for their training. Enoch tenderly holds Rini's face, promising to return soon and urging her to speak up if she feels any pain. Sylvester watches them silently, admitting to himself that he's too worried about Rini to concentrate. Rini playfully squeezes Enoch's cheeks, asking if he wants to skip school and telling him not to worry. Overjoyed by her affection, Enoch nuzzles his face against hers with a blissful smile. He cheerfully promises to be right back, while Rini internally worries that things can't go as he wishes. Rini looks away with a slight blush, finding the sudden display of affection awkward. Sylvester offers her a piece of bread, thoughtfully noting that she's acting differently and calling her name. Sylvester thinks that Rini seems unusual today, as she internally demands he come closer. As Sylvester apologizes to Mr. Barristan, Rini decides she can't reveal her plans to Sylvie just yet. She feels a sense of urgency, believing she must find the children even if it seems illogical. Determined to act immediately, she runs down the long hall. Pen in hand, she hatches a clever plan, realizing no one will understand if she writes in Korean. She lays out her grim fate. As the 3-year-old daughter of the Hachania family, she is destined to die from an incurable disease at 19. She begins writing about her father, Gaspard Désiré de Hachania, the powerful Duke of the Willinan Empire. An image of a formidable woman in a red cape and pirate attire appears, a key figure in the events to come. She recalls the past. Her mother Noelle went to sea with her childhood friend, the Empress, and went missing 3 years later due to a pirate attack. She remembers a dark rumor that began to spread right after her mother disappeared. A priest had delivered a prophecy stating that one of the Hachania children possessed royal blood. The prevailing rumor suggested her mother had contact with the royal family, with the prophecy as proof. Heartbroken and betrayed, her father Gaspar grew distant from her, suspecting she was the illegitimate child. Though he remained loyal to the throne, it was her death that ultimately pushed Gaspar down the path of treason. The only cure for the mysterious Lauer's disease that will claim her life is a legendary elixir. She puzzles over the novel's plot, questioning why Gaspar would commit treason for a daughter he was distant with, only to realize he was consumed by guilt after her death. She reaffirms that she is not illegitimate, but knows the rumors will turn her family against her, strengthening her resolve to raise her brothers herself to defy her fate. She maps out the family tree, knowing her brothers are the only ones capable of searching for the elixir. She dismisses the story's main male lead and the Emperor, focusing instead on her mysterious oldest brother, whom she has never met. A lone, cloaked figure stands under the moonlight, his presence enigmatic. The figure is revealed to be her dark-haired older brother, Zachary. A promotional poster depicts Rini as a commanding young lady with her brothers as loyal dolls by her side. She recalls that Zachary is the sub-male lead in the original story, whose infatuation with the main heroine, Inez, causes him to ignore his own dying sister. The narration scathingly describes the sub-male lead as an idiot who only knows how to love one way. A quiet sigh escapes as she lies in bed, overwhelmed by the complexities of her new life. Lying on the floor, Rini muses that the elixir would solve everything, but knows it's impossible. She clutches her head, realizing her past life memories are causing severe, overloading headaches. 2 maids, Lulu and Lala, enter with a trolley, announcing that it is snack time for the lady. The red-haired maid, Lala, finds Rini on the floor and asks what she's doing, as Rini panics about the timing. Lala discovers Rini's writing, reacting with shock, as Rini frantically hopes the maid can't read it. Rini feels a wave of relief, realizing they'll just treat her frantic actions like those of a child. A plate of cookies is presented as a maid wishes her a good meal. Ah, she happily takes a bite of a large chocolate chip cookie. Lala regretfully informs her that Chef Lombardi couldn't make her special juice due to an ingredient issue. Rini looks up in surprise as the maid promises to bring the juice next time. Seeing Rini's reaction, the 2 maids fuss over her apparent disappointment, promising the chef will make it tomorrow. She thinks it's not about the juice. She just wants to eat before the rumors spread, and everyone abandons her. Rain begins to pour down on the grand Hachania mansion. Standing by a window, she recalls how her father is always with her when it rains. But tonight he hasn't come. And she sadly concludes it's because he now believes she's an illegitimate child. She trembles, imagining her father's pain from his wife's perceived betrayal. A sudden, sharp crack of lightning flashes across the sky. Terrified by the thunder, Rini sits frozen on the floor, thinking it's all gone crazy. Hugging her knees, she admits she's scared of the thunder without her father there. She reflects that her child's body has made her spirit feel young and vulnerable again. She contrasts her lonely past life with the precious, happy time she's had with her father. A bright memory surfaces of her laughing joyfully while holding her father's hand in a field of dandelions. In the memory, she gently presses her father's hand to her cheek with a loving smile. A dark premonition grips her. She realizes the rumors have surely spread, and now even her maids, Lulu and Lala, will no longer be on her side. Determined, she squeezes her own cheeks to snap out of her fear. She stands and shouts at herself to wake up and face reality. The scene transitions with an elegant display of white roses and lace. Another transitional panel with a floral and lace design appears. Waking in her bed, Rini confusedly calls out for her maids, Lulu and Lala. Her two maids greet her cheerfully, gushing over how cute she looks waking up. The sound of determined footsteps approaches her room. 3 stern-faced men in uniform appear outside her door. Lala angrily confronts the men for entering the room unannounced, but their leader simply tells his subordinate to begin. As the men begin moving her things, Rini knew this was coming. She could only watch. Lala furiously demands to know what they are doing, but the lead man just sighs in resignation. The man announces he is following the owner's orders to move her from the main mansion, confirming Rini's fear that her father now considers them strangers. He dismisses Lulu and Lala, informing them they can no longer serve Rini and must leave. Shocked and tearful, the two maids look on as they are separated from their young lady. Rini calmly accepts her fate, having already predicted she would be sent away to a smaller mansion. The scene shifts to the lush, damp greenery of her new residence. One of her escorts, a man with purple-gray hair, advises her to watch her step on the soft ground. She stands alone and small in the garden, looking lost and forlorn. As they walk, the purple-haired man suggests carrying the tired princess, but his companion coldly tells him to leave her be. The hostile man calls her the illegitimate child of a traitor, but the other man defends her, stating nothing has been proven yet. Rini scoffs internally at their audacity, thinking this mansion is a prison and vowing she wouldn't have tolerated such insubordination in her past life. A flash of her past self's deadly skill surfaces, and she wonders if the men can sense the cold, dangerous shift in her aura. The scene reveals her destination, a smaller, isolated mansion in the woods. Finally arriving, she pants with exhaustion, lamenting how difficult it is to survive in a weak child's body. A woman in a uniform addresses her as Miss Nora and offers to take her luggage, leaving Rini to question the new name. An unknown man declares he will handle things, welcoming the lady. Rini asks if the woman is tutor Nora, who replies she doesn't know if she should still call Rini lady. Looking around the desolate interior, Rini notes the mansion's neglect and the absence of any workers. She stands alone in the hall, accepting that her hardship has officially begun. She knows her time is short, as the Emperor will soon summon her to quell rumors of royal blood. Watching Rini toddle, Nora thinks the child needs to move slower, her expression filled with weariness. A sudden stop is marked by a sharp tap. Nora angrily snaps, demanding Rini hurry up and declaring that she is a very busy person. With a smug smile, Nora thinks to herself that she is different from someone who just wanders around. Rini looks up in utter confusion, wondering what on earth the woman is talking about. She reflects that the house servant's intense loyalty to her father Gaspar means they will never accept her. But as she looks up at her new caretaker, she feels a sense of doubt. Rini studies Nora, questioning if the woman's professed feelings for Gaspar are truly loyalty. A thorny premonition foreshadows the coming darkness. Nora coldly assigns Rini to a dark, grim-looking room. Rini confronts Nora, recalling the woman's earlier words. She pointedly asks who someone just wandering around is. Nora smirks, simply asking who. Nora venomously reveals she meant Rini's late mother, calling her a lowly woman and declaring Rini the result of her dirty affair. Rini fumes internally, shocked that the staff would dare say such things to a child. She silently seethes, decrying her mother's slanderer. Overcome with emotion, Nora rants about how the late madam betrayed her beloved owner, even claiming the fatal accident was self-inflicted. As Nora laments her pity owner, Rini can only sigh at the spectacle. Though she can't remember her mother, Rini feels indignant that the dead must suffer such humiliation. Nora leans in close, taunting Rini that her father no longer cares about her. When Rini calls him dad, Nora coldly informs her that she is not related by blood to the owner. A man's eye widens in surprise. Crack. A sharp sound rings out as two figures are seen in the distance. The purple-gray-haired man suggests they return to the mansion. Someone desperately pounds on the mansion doors, shouting to be let go. With surprising strength, Rini grabs Nora's collar, shocking both her and the man who escorted her. Three men in uniform burst in, demanding to know what's happening. Flustered, Nora thinks the men look like Lady Leonora. Rini crosses her arms defiantly, challenging the woman's words. The gray-haired man in the lead looks down at the scene, intrigued. Rini tugs on the man's sleeve to get his attention. Looking up with wide, pleading eyes, she announces that she's hungry. She internally justifies her hunger after exerting herself, as the gray-haired man reacts with surprise. His two subordinates shoot Nora a look of disapproval for her harsh treatment of the child. Rini sharply turns her head, telling Nora to wait. She coolly wonders if they feel guilty for starving a 3-year-old. She examines her hands, thinking of Leonora's body. A bright, cheerful smile appears on her face. She stands alone, contemplating whether she can use mana by referencing the original novel's plot. The sound of determined footsteps approaches down the hall. Rini wonders who is coming, since she's meant to be isolated, and worries Nora is seeking revenge. She gasps in shock, recognizing the approaching figure. Rini recognizes Chef Lombardi, who is pleasantly surprised that the young lady remembers his name. She looks up in surprise, asking what he is doing here. Chef Lombardi explains that he brought her juice because he felt heartbroken that she was disappointed yesterday. Touched that he came all this way for her, she gratefully accepts the juice. Wait. Her eyes widen as she senses an approaching presence reflected in her pupils. Now, he coldly questions what the chef is giving Leonora. The chef flinches as Rini hides, frantically wondering why the boy has appeared. The boy is identified as the young master, Sylvester. As Sylvester repeats his question, Rini worries that he's heard the rumors about her being illegitimate. Trembling with fear, the chef nervously clutches his hat, unable to answer. Rini clenches her fists, internally cheering for Chef Lombardi not to be intimidated. With a cold expression, Sylvester demands a straight answer from the chef. Chef Lombardi admits he gave juice to the lady, and Sylvester immediately asks by whose order. Sylvester's gaze grows menacing as he asks if the chef received permission from the Lord. The chef admits he did not, while Rini watches the tense confrontation unfold. A shadow falls over Rini's face as she seethes with anger at Sylvester. She realizes he came just to pick a fight, upset that his chef is caring for an illegitimate child. Deciding to end the confrontation, she tells Chef Lombardi to take the juice back. The chef protests, reaching for the bottle as she offers it back to him. Crash! The bottle slips from her hand and shatters on the floor as the chef cries out in alarm. Sylvester's eyes narrow in concern as he spots a wound on her. Standing amid the broken glass, Rini dismisses the bloody cut on her leg as a mere scratch. Sylvester swiftly scoops her into his arms and orders Lombardi to fetch a doctor immediately. The chef hastily agrees and runs off to follow the order. He looks down at the small child in his arms, his expression unreadable. She silently thinks he's overreacting about a small scratch after being so difficult moments ago. Sylvester continues to gaze down at her with a serious, focused look. Held in his arms, she still can't understand his motives for coming to see her. In a fond memory, she recalls that while Sylvester wasn't as sweet as Enoch, she could always feel his care. The memory shows a younger Sylvester watching over her with a rare, gentle smile. Returning to the grim present, she realizes that gentle side of him is gone. He softly asks if she's in a lot of pain and offers to check her wound. His hand reaches gently toward her injured leg. She shoves him away with a start, shouting for him to leave. He stares in shock as she resolves to push him away now to prevent future pain. Her eyes wide with determination, she yells at him again to get away. Looking hurt and confused, Sylvester asks if she truly just told him to leave. She stares back defiantly and gives a firm, resounding, "Yes!" Visibly dejected, he quietly asks her why. She thinks to herself that she must sever their attachment to avoid falling for another false dream. An image of her longing for a family shows her standing apart from her father and his 2 sons. When he calls her Leanie, she coldly tells him to stop, leaving him confused. Looking away, she states with finality, "Sylvie, I'm not your sister." Her words hit him hard, his red eye widening in shock. Her declaration, "I'm not your sister," echoes through his mind, leaving him stunned and speechless. He stammers her name, desperately asking what she means by her cruel words. A sudden power emanates from her as her purple eyes begin to glow. As a sudden chill fills the air, he thinks in alarm, "Don't tell me." He stares in disbelief, realizing she's using an aura, and demands she answer him. Surrounded by an icy mist, she internally fumes, unable to speak as she's frozen by her own uncontrolled power. Shivering from the intense cold, she thinks his aura is far sharper than the book described. As ice creeps across the floor, freezing her feet, a man with a briefcase and a maid burst in, demanding to know what the young master is doing. A maid cries out in a panic, asking if the miss is okay. Sylvester orders the maid, Lulu, to move aside, stating he must speak with Leonora, as Leonora sadly thinks he's about to leave now that she isn't his sister. Panicked, she desperately screams for help in her mind, while Lulu watches in horror. As Sylvester presses her for an answer, her hair begins to turn purple, and she weakly pleads for him to stop. He shouts, "What?" in utter confusion as she glares at him, seething with rage. Flustered, Sylvester wonders what he could have possibly done to upset her so much. Suddenly dizzy from the freezing air, Sylvester stumbles and falls toward Leonora, who ominously thinks he's about to see the consequences. As she loses consciousness, she vows to tell him everything, leaving Sylvester stunned. Her last thought before fainting is a devastating one. She has no father. Sometime later, she begins to stir as night falls outside her window. Her brilliant purple eyes flutter open as she regains consciousness. A dark-haired man with red eyes watches over her, gently asking if Leni is awake. Sitting up in bed, she looks at the man and wonders if he was worried about her. Overwhelmed with shyness, she covers her face with her hands. From the doorway, Sylvester offers an apology, but the dark-haired man dismisses it, telling him it's okay. Sylvester stands alone by the window, quietly stating he can see everything from his spot. Leni is shocked to see him there, wondering how long he was watching. The dark-haired man turns to Sylvester, prompting him to say something to Leonora. Sylvester hesitates, remaining silent with a somber expression. He finally begins to speak, starting with a quiet, In a flashback, Sylvester explains that Leni went to the annex because of rumors, sadly noting that she seems fine without them. Leni angrily turns her back on him, shouting that he should be sorry because she almost died. She declares that she doesn't want to speak to Sylvie, leaving him standing in stunned silence. The dark-haired man holds Leni, gently acknowledging that Sylvester was wrong to use his aura. She bitterly recalls an old saying, thinking he's just siding with family, even with someone who won't properly apologize. She clenches her fists, realizing that sending her away was merely an act of sympathy, since he knows she's not his real daughter. Her thoughts are interrupted by a sudden fit of violent sneezing. As she continues to sneeze, the man worriedly calls out her name, Leonora. She tries to activate her power, but finds that it's not working much to her frustration. Sylvester watches from a distance, his face filled with quiet regret. The man explains that controlling an aura is difficult even for experts, and she quietly agrees. A look of sudden realization dawns on Sylvester's face. As the man speaks to Leonora, she looks up and asks, "What?" Sylvester's red eyes gleam with a newfound determination. He straightens his posture, his resolve hardening around the glowing red jewel he wears. The story notes that she forgave him and sent him back. But Leni lies in bed, fuming and questioning what forgiveness even means. Clenching the sheets in her fist, she decides she can't forgive Sylvester. She screams in her mind, overwhelmed by how much emotional pain she feels. Her frustration culminates in a single furious thought. Damn it! An explanation reveals that special knights who handle auras are called soul knights. The 4 seasonal aura types are shown: flower, summer, winter, and shadow. Sylvester's winter knights are depicted, whose aura is powerful enough to freeze both land and people on contact. The narrative concludes that the exposure to the aura was too much for Leonora's weak body. Cradled by her maid, Lulu, she asks if it's really okay for her to be there. Lulu reassures her that the Lord allowed it, and Leni quietly thinks of her dad. A gentle hand strokes her forehead as she's told the medicine will help her sleep. In a warm memory, she recalls her father's kindness, thinking he's a soft-hearted person. Lying in bed, she blushes, hoping her father still sees her as family. A blonde-haired boy with red eyes suddenly appears, worriedly asking if Leanie is okay. Waking up, she recognizes Enoch and is shocked to learn she's been asleep for 2 days. She asks why he's here, and he explains he was too worried about her to focus on his training. Enoch gazes at her with sincere, earnest eyes. She looks at him doubtfully, prompting him to ask if she doesn't believe him. To prove he's worried, Enoch playfully pinches her cheek. Ouch. She angrily shoves him away, shouting for him to stop. Rubbing his cheek, he jokes that she's gotten violent now that he's older. He reminds her of when she was a baby who always wanted hugs, but she denies remembering and calls him a liar. You're demanding to know what I just said. Enoch confronts her, hurt, asking why she said he wasn't her brother. In a moment of dark resolve, she thinks that she must get rid of her feelings. Hesitantly, she asks if Sylvie is Linny's brother, unable to tell Enoch the truth. The two children sit in a quiet, tense moment on the large bed. She looks up in surprise, starting to say Enoch's name. Enoch smiles down at her, waiting for her answer. Blushing, she happily declares that Enoch is Leanie's brother. Enoch celebrates her declaration with joy as she inwardly calls him out for his earlier excuse. Whoosh! He dashes out of the room in a flash. Alone now, she lets out a deep sigh of relief. She facepalms, exasperated by the whole situation. Grabbing her head, she groans in utter frustration. Determined, she stands up, ready to move forward. Suddenly, a brilliant flash of light fills the room. Startled by the light, she wonders what's happening. A sharp pulse of energy radiates through the room. She clutches her head as a sudden, sharp pain strikes her. Overwhelmed by the pain, she breaks down in tears. The pain subsides as she spots a book lying on the floor. She stumbles toward it, realizing in shock that it's the original novel. Looking closer, she examines the mysterious cover of the book. The book reveals the name Ains above an image of a crying baby. Stunned, she realizes the book is the original, and Ains is the heroine. A brilliant idea suddenly sparks in her mind. Her thoughts race with desires for treasure, immortality, and power, while a maid watches in confusion. Her attempt fails, and she sighs in disappointment. Reading the novel, she learns of a cruel order to confine the lady to a separate palace. She calls the emperor a crazy tyrant, reading that his wife left on a voyage while unknowingly pregnant. The story reveals the emperor turned away from the baby to ease his own pain. Utterly confused by the story, she can only say, "What?" The book's pages begin to flip on their own. Leaning over, she's baffled to see the pages have all gone blank. She looks up with a start as something changes. New words begin to magically appear on the once blank pages. The book announces that new characters are appearing. A new passage reveals that Ains never knew the face of her father, Gregor. Ains was moved to an old palace, abandoned and alone. A baby in a crib is introduced as Princess Ains, who mischievously thinks Leonora should be arriving soon. Ina smiles, thinking she needs to live comfortably despite her sickly body. A brown-haired baby schemes, thinking it's time for the Duke to abandon Leonora. Her tiny fist clenches as she recalls a familiar, painful specification. The baby girl flashes a bright, happy wave. She summons her power, crying out for mana to come to her. Now a toddler with white hair, she stares intently at a mysterious book. Tap, her small hand rests on the cover of the novel. A shocking revelation appears. The heroine, Ains, is a regressor, which she finds crazy. Holding a different book, the blonde-haired girl frowns, not remembering that detail from her reading. She decides to change her strategy, realizing the book fills in details as the story progresses. A smiling maid with light brown hair winks playfully. The blonde girl reaffirms her goal. For now, she must stay at the Duke's house. In her room, she wonders if she brought any useful items with her. Finding nothing, she groans in frustration, lamenting that she's acting like a baby. At a grand office door, an unseen person informs her that His Excellency is not at his desk. The girl, now in a green dress, insists on waiting for her dad, but is told she cannot stay in the office hallways. She pouts, thinking he wasn't like this before, and calls out for Henny as a brown-haired man appears. A panel introduces the man as Gaspard's lieutenant, Henry Massard. She beams, pointing at him with a determined smile. Henry looks down in confusion, asking why she is giving him something. Internally vowing to use her cuteness, she explains that since Henny helps Dad, this is her thanks, as a baby can't offer bribes. An unseen man who she assumes is her father tells her to give one to him as well. Triumphant, she waves goodbye to Henny and toddles away. She hopefully thinks that if she returns tomorrow, she might be able to see Gaspard. She walks away with purpose, unaware that a man in a blue uniform is watching her from the doorway. The next day, Henry apologetically reports that His Excellency is not there. And the day after, she is again gently sent back to her room. Stomp! She realizes with growing anger that he is clearly avoiding her. Leaning against a large tree, she laments that her plan to win over Gaspard is meaningless if she can't even see him. Her purple eyes narrow with worry as she realizes the situation will become a problem if it continues. The view shifts to a sunny patch of grass, dotted with colorful wildflowers. Sitting by the tree, she resents him for changing after she learns she isn't his daughter and wonders how to proceed. Having made a decision, she stands up and declares, "We're done!" Holding a freshly woven flower crown, she decides to go to the office one more time. The scene transitions to the Grand Ducal Mansion on a beautiful day. She smiles sweetly, clutching the flower crown and hoping to finally see him. She recalls his past sympathy when he visited her while she was sick, certain he will accept her gift. Her hopeful expression suddenly freezes in shock. A stern-faced man with dark hair and piercing red eyes stands before her. Ouch. She stumbles and falls to the floor after bumping into his leg. Her purple eye widens in stunned recognition. Looking up at the formidable man, she exclaims with joy, "Daddy!" The man stares down at her coldly, beginning to ask who she is. His question, "Is your dad?" hangs in the air, leaving her confused and frozen in place. As she calls out Dad again, he looks away and coldly asks who she is calling Dad. He dismisses her, saying she's in his way, while she internally reasons that his bad temper is due to Noelle's betrayal. Correcting herself, she nervously addresses him as Patriarch instead of Dad. She holds up the flower crown she made as a gift for the tall man. He reaches down and takes the colorful crown from her hands. She thinks he must have a soft heart despite his harsh words, only to watch in horror as he crushes the flower crown under his boot. The man glares down at her, coldly asking why she's giving him trash as she stares up in disbelief. He coldly dismisses her, telling her to go away. Crushed, she can't believe he'd call her gift trash and tell her to leave. She realizes with dawning horror that Gaspard would never say such cruel words. Spinning around, she defiantly shouts, "Hey!" He stops, momentarily silenced by her informal address. He turns, questioning if she really just called him hey. Whoosh! In a flash, he grabs her by the dress and dashes away. He marvels at the incredible power coming from such a small child. The scene shifts to the vast, empty ducal hall. Now kneeling before her, he affirms, "That's right, you." The little girl points at him with fierce determination. His red eyes narrow as he stares back at her, intrigued. In a memory from 3 years ago, a glowing woman calls out a name. Gaspard jolts awake in bed, shouting his own name in confusion. A woman with white hair, Noelle, leans over him and asks if he's all right. Gaspard looks at Noelle in confusion, wondering what's wrong. He internally concludes that this woman is a trap set by Marquis Heroine. He recalls that the Marquis supported Gregor's rise as emperor. He silently vows to make his intentions clear to Heroine. Noelle looks on, completely bewildered by his behavior. Facing Noelle, the man coldly declares he has no intention of accepting the baby as his, shocking her. He internally scoffs, thinking her beauty is a weapon that won't work on him as his fist tightens. Her fist clenches with sudden, decisive force. Smack, she lands a solid punch right across his face. Holding her dress, she demands to know who he is, certain he isn't her husband, Gaspard. Stunned, he holds his cheek, the name Gaspard echoing in his mind. A narration explains that a soul has been trapped in the Duke's body, only able to move freely during a crescent moon. Back in the present, the possessor recognizes the girl as Noelle's daughter, just as she furiously demands to know who he is. She runs forward and delivers a swift kick to his shin. He snaps, demanding she stop screaming, which startles her into silence. He looms over her and makes a shocking declaration. "I will be your father," leaving her speechless. He reflects on the prophecy and the moment he first possessed Gaspard's body. A vision of a serene, faceless woman with white hair appears. Clutching her dress, she asks what he means by leaking mana. He remains silent, gazing down at her with a stoic expression. He turns away, stating he has no time for her and must find a way to break his curse and return to his own body. Refusing to let him leave, she grabs his cape and says, "No." Clinging to his leg, she tearfully asks who he is, insisting he can't be her father. He glares down, his patience worn thin, and threatens her life if she doesn't leave. Annoyed by her leaking mana, he decides to simply absorb it, his hand glowing with dark power. A wave of purple energy washes over her as she wonders what's happening. Overwhelmed by the force, she cries out in pain. Feeling like she's about to faint, the man recoils, stunned by a sharp, unexpected pain from the absorption. A mysterious blue light emanates from his clenched fist. A sudden splash of blood stains the air. The girl stares in shock at the blood on the floor, her eyes glowing. Clutching his bleeding chest, the man weakly calls out her name as she watches in confusion, wondering if it's her dad. With tears in her eyes, the little blonde girl asks if the man before her is really her dad. The dark-haired man winces in pain, thinking it's no good. A gloved hand raises a dagger as a voice urgently commands, "Run, Rini!" Confused, the man in the blue uniform looks down at a small pendant in his hand. The little girl watches in confusion, wondering what her father is doing, as a gloved hand plunges a dagger into a chest with a grunt of pain. She stares in wide-eyed horror, realizing her dad is stabbing himself. The blonde girl lets out a silent, terrified scream. Her voice echoes in a desperate plea. "Dad, no!" Henry is startled by a distant shout, recognizing the princess's voice. Realizing the danger, Henry shouts a warning for the princess to stay back as he rushes to grab her. Henry scoops the girl into his arms, pulling her away just as the bloody dagger drops to the floor. The bloody dagger clatters to the ground as the man stumbles and turns away. He collapses to the floor, leaving Henry and the girl to watch in stunned silence. Cradled in Henry's arms, the girl insists she's fine and expresses her worry for her dad. She frantically screams for Henry to call a doctor, crying that her dad is bleeding badly. Henry's expression hardens with silent determination. As Henry promises to be right back, the girl observes his worried face, realizing everyone will think Gaspard tried to kill himself over Noel's death. Leaning over the unconscious Gaspard, she senses his mana and confirms her suspicion. The Dark Knight's aura wasn't her father's. She touches his chest, calling the entity a crazy person, and realizes with glowing eyes that someone else is possessing Gaspard's body. She reasons that if she could enter Leonore's body, it's possible someone else has taken over Gaspard's. Elsewhere, servants gossip about their master's dramatic collapse and his failure to wake up. A stern maid with reddish-brown hair discusses how the Duke has neglected the princess, since rumors of her illegitimacy spread. Walking down the hall, the maid muses that she's surprised a gentle girl like the princess is still in the mansion. The scene transitions to a quiet, sunlit bedroom. The pages of a book flutter open. Reading The Pink Life of Princess, the blonde girl wonders why the book's pages are still blank and if something is wrong. She realizes that since Ains is still a baby, the novel's plot won't be changing anytime soon. Contemplating the strange events, she decides she must prepare and considers using Leonore's immense mana. She laments not having the original story for reference, recalling that the heroine Ains needs a magician. She knows it will be a long time before Ains is old enough to learn magic herself. With renewed determination, she vows to make it possible for her current body, Leonore's, to use magic. She reflects that two people, the possessor and Ains, are already after her body's mana. The scene shifts to a grand, sun-drenched hallway. With a look of resolve, she decides she must check on her dad's condition. She looks around the main house, wondering where Lala is. Suddenly, an unseen person grabs her arm, blaming her for the owner's collapse and startling her. The stern maid glares down, accusingly asking why she hurt the owner. She begs the maid to stop, explaining that she can feel the owner's pain too. which leaves the maid wondering if she's connected to Gaspar's soul. Her fist clenches weakly as she realizes she lacks strength after the madman drained her mana. The maid's eyes narrow as she decides she has no other choice. A sinister voice declares that bad children must be punished. The maid raises a whip, ready to strike the terrified girl. The girl stifles a laugh, thinking that after her past life, a whip is hardly frightening compared to a modern handgun. Enraged by her arrogance, the maid seethes, questioning how she dares to laugh. A stern voice interrupts, asking what she is doing. Gaspar has awakened, shocking the maid. The maid's demeanor instantly changes to one of adoration as she asks if he has finally woken up. Gaspar glares intensely at the maid, demanding she answer his question. Holding the whip, the maid calmly explains that she was merely instructing Nora on how to be polite. He dismisses her explanation as a wave of purple energy shoots from his hand. The blonde girl watches in shock, wondering if her father's body can give mana to others. The reddish-haired maid is enveloped in the purple energy, crying out in confusion. The man coldly states she is teaching children things they don't need to learn. Wham! The maid cries out in pain as the force throws her backward. Staring wide-eyed, she nervously asks what the matter is. The man looks down, stating that he came to see his daughter. He coolly asks if he needs a reason to visit his own daughter. The scene transitions with a focus on a dark blue rose. She furiously repeats that he is not her father and demands to know who he is. He wonders how she knew he was there despite his hidden mana, as she retorts that his entire atmosphere is different. She states plainly that her real dad would never treat her this way. He counters that he simply dealt with a servant harming his daughter, and the girl thinks his punishment of a fine is too gentle. Crossing her arms, she begrudgingly admits he has a point. She panics, realizing she's losing the argument, and points accusingly at him. The girl accuses him of returning to kill her, but he dismisses her words as nonsense. She yells that he tried to kill her by draining her mana. A decorative panel explains that in this world, mana is equivalent to life. He denies her accusation, claiming he never intended to kill her and asking what kind of person she thinks he is. She eyes him suspiciously, wondering if this thief stole her father's body. The man seethes with rage, barely suppressing his urge to kill the mouse-sized girl. Now truly frightened, she realizes how scary her father's face can be. He reassures her, suggesting that she might be able to help him, which piques her curiosity. He explains that while he can fool others, she is smart enough to see through his disguise. He finishes his thought, stating that she contains a bit of his mana. She bristles at his words, thinking that she is his child, not just a vessel for his mana. The man pauses, thoughtfully stroking his chin. A beautiful memory shows a dark-haired man and a long-haired blonde woman walking together through a garden. The little girl looks down with a hint of sadness, beginning to speak. The man interrupts, demanding to know who she is, and she fires back, asking why he's in her father's body. He replies that one doesn't choose to possess another's body. Looking away, he reveals a fragment of his name. The girl recognizes the name Willinen and tries to recall where she's heard it before. With a gasp, she realizes he is Emperor Gregor's half-brother. Willinen explains that he won the throne but was cursed by Gregor before he could claim it. He recalls the moment he was trapped in Gaspar's body against his will. The girl puts the pieces together, realizing his plan was to become a tyrant. Willinen states that he won't be in this body for long and will soon return to his own. She breathes a sigh of relief, happy that her real father might come back. Willinen looks annoyed, simply telling her to cooperate. She grabs his leg to get his attention as he calls out for someone named Lucas. Looking up at him with determination, she starts to make a proposal. She boldly asks if he wants to defeat Emperor Gregor with her. Willinen stares back, completely stunned by her offer. A narration panel describes Emperor Gregor as the tyrant who will destroy the duchy. Looking up at the stunned man, she reminds him that he said she could be of help. She winks, telling him he has nothing to lose. The man considers her no-damage offer, realizing the Duke was unaware he was the former crown prince and that he lacks the time to break his curse. Surprised, she wonders if he agreed so easily because she's a child. Thinking it can't be that simple, she holds out her pinky and asks for his promise. Their pinkies lock, sealing the deal. She lays out the terms of their contract. He gets his body back after Hachania gains its independence. He interrupts her, telling her to wait. Wilanin questions her demand for an independent Hachania in front of the future emperor, believing it's too late to achieve. His red eyes flash with a strange energy. As a powerful purple aura surrounds them, he realizes she has invoked a magician's promise. He demands to know how she knows dark magic as she smiles coyly, replying, "That's it." She lets out a delighted laugh. She inwardly schemes that if he betrays their deal, all his mana will be hers. The scene transitions, announcing a regular meeting for the next day. Wilanin, in Gaspard's body, sits thoughtfully at his desk. A narration warns not to ask Gaspard these kinds of questions. The scene shifts to a sunny memory as she calls out Dad. A man with dark hair turns in surprise. In the memory, her real father, Gaspard, kneels before her in a grassy field. He begins to speak to her. Gaspard confesses his deep love for Rini, saying she means more to him than anyone in the world. A memory of Gaspard's kind, smiling face flashes by. Back in the present, a man apologizes to the Duke for trusting him during a meeting in Hachania. The man is introduced as Ronald, from the royal palace's administration. Ronald announces the princess will be taken to the palace, but Wilanin cuts him off as the girl internally asks, who dares take her? Wilanin declares he has no intention of sending her to the palace. Ronald argues the princess, as the prophesied daughter of Archmage Lucas, must be protected at the palace, and questions the Duke's poor relationship with her, implying he knows her royal lineage. The girl realizes they know everything. Wilanin insists their relationship is good, but Ronald mentions rumors of abandonment, prompting Wilanin to slam his fist on the table. He glares menacingly, repeating that their relationship is very good, while a terrified Ronald feels a murderous intent from him. She walks up to the table, greeting her dad cheerfully. She beams, putting on a perfect act. Wilanin is stunned as she panics internally, worried that his reaction is revealing her act. She throws her arms open wide, asking for a hug. He lifts her up instead, much to her annoyance. She laughs loudly, pretending to enjoy being held by her dad. As she rests on his shoulder, he wonders why she isn't panicking. Thud. He slams his hand down hard. Crack. The table shatters as she mentally screams at the crazy man. As the men cry out in shock, she tells him to calm down. Henry stands silently, recalling the Duke's words. Henry adjusts his tie, proud of the Duke's loyalty and his own good work. Cradled in Wilanin's arms, the girl cheekily asks if they don't have a lovely father-daughter relationship, relieved they made it through the day. The departing visitors are told a letter will be sent later. Ronald promises they will meet again for an answer as the little girl waves him off. Relieved, she thinks the meeting ended without harm, but notes that he must have been scared. She looks up at his stony expression, wondering if he's looking down on her. Annoyed by his frozen state, she tells him to wake up already. The man calls her Rini, and she realizes in shock that this person is not Lucas. A shimmering light reflects off her beautiful blonde hair. Suddenly filled with joy, she leaps into his arms, crying out, "Dad." She looks up with hopeful eyes, asking if he is her real dad. He holds her securely, gently patting her back. He expresses his confusion as she realizes Lucas Wilanin has entered her father's body, wondering if he found out and whether the missing prince is truly dead. She asks if he'll send her to the palace because she isn't his real daughter, feeling even more wronged after hearing his side of the story. He firmly declares she is his daughter and he won't send her anywhere, but she points out that he already sent her to the mansion. He explains he sent her away to protect her from the Emperor, as the mansion can be hidden by magical boundaries, unlike the main house. Stunned, she silently fumes over the heartache she endured for that reason. He gets her attention, telling her to look at something he holds. He presents a letter from the shrine, which she realizes is about the royal family's illegitimate child. Rip. He tears the letter to pieces, stating he has no intention of opening it. Utterly shocked, she calls out to her father. He kneels before her, telling her that she is one of his important children. She still looks worried, asking what will happen if they keep demanding she go to the palace. He looks up with fierce determination, declaring that can't happen. Smiling, she concludes that her real dad is back and plans to see if the original story has changed. She announces she is returning to her mansion, and he thoughtfully calls her name. He asks if she wants to move into the main house now, surprising her. She flatly refuses, realizing she hid the novel there. She declares she wants to leave her father, leaving him completely baffled. Clarifying she wants to be as far as possible, she leaves him utterly dumbfounded. The scene shifts to the royal mansion, where a teddy bear is thrown down in anger. A girl with light brown hair seems unfazed, noting this isn't the first time. She smirks, thinking she doesn't care and still has a way to succeed. The light brown-haired girl repeats that it's not surprising and reaffirms she doesn't care, as she still has a plan. Back with the blonde girl, she slams her book shut, frustrated at being interrupted at a crucial moment. She realizes she needs to add mana to see the next page, but the book doesn't react. She wonders why the novel's content has changed, questioning if her own actions are affecting the story. Two maids find her cute, as she stares at a blank paper and ask if she's bored. A maid informs her that the princes have left with Duke Saloa to enroll at the academy, and the girl questions the name. She freezes, recognizing the name Tristan and realizing who he must be. A panel introduces Tristan de Soa Gulem, the novel's male lead and the one destined to destroy her family. She scowls, thinking to herself that this kid is trash too. Recalling the novel, she remembers how Gaspard kidnapped Ines but didn't harm her, while Tristan sided with the Emperor and destroyed Hachania. She reviews the plot and evil heroine, a male lead who destroys a family for revenge, and the fact that both the potion and the elixir came from her family. Holding the book, she sits alone, saddened by the cruel story. Tapping her foot, she resolves to prevent her family's destruction to uphold her contract with Lucas. She worries about how to get the elixir, as she can't ask the oldest brother she's never met. An idea strikes, and she suddenly calls out for someone named Lala. A brown-haired maid named Lala appears, responding with a cheerful "Yes, lady." A brilliant idea comes to her mind. A narration explains that Zachary got the legendary elixir instead of Tristan because Tristan was preoccupied by a civil war. Zachary, the commander of the Black Wolf Knights, was the one who replaced Tristan as captain. She formulates a plan. What if someone not enchanted by Ines became the knight captain and took the quest? Her plan continues to form. What if that person happens to like her very much? A determined smile crosses her face as she declares the elixir will be hers. Elsewhere, a sleepy little blonde boy lets out a yawn. The blonde girl laughs like a true villain as her maid watches in shock. A man with blonde hair named Henry greets the purple-haired princess as she asks if her dad is present. Henry explains that her father has been away and politely asks her to wait inside the study. The grand, empty study awaits her. A little blonde girl with purple eyes enters the room cautiously. She looks up at a portrait of a beautiful blonde woman in red, whispering the name Noel. Reaching out, she touches the worn frame, noting how faded the color has become from countless touches. She sadly reflects that if Noel were still alive, none of this would be happening. Pausing thoughtfully, she considers her next move. She connects Empress Ines' death to Noel's, wondering if Noel could have been useful as a prisoner, and questioning her true value. Thump! A black-gloved hand lands firmly on her shoulder. Startled, she sees her father, who asks what she's thinking about so deeply. She dismisses his concern, saying she'd be bored without her brothers, while internally deciding to focus on her immediate goals first. Turning to her father, she nervously admits she has a favor to ask. She strikes a determined pose, ready to make her request. Her father's expression darkens as he thinks about making someone named Enoch a captain, his face twisting with displeasure at the thought of him. He asks if Enoch has been bragging to her again, reminding her of an incident last year where he almost hurt her. She panics, recalling the accident where she nearly burned her hair in a magical fire. Her father resolves to summon Enoch for a scolding, but she quickly tries to stop him, insisting that's not what she meant. Realizing she has no other choice, she calls out to her father to get his attention for a surprise. She concentrates intensely, commanding her power to manifest. Straining with all her might, she grows frustrated when nothing happens. Her father looks on, startled and confused by her strange actions. He picks her up, misinterpreting her straining face and telling her it's okay if she needs to use the toilet, much to her horrified denial. Mortified, she shouts that he's completely wrong. Suddenly, her hands glow with a brilliant pink aura as she proudly shows her father, pointing out it's the same color as Enoch's. As her father kneels in shock, she internally notes that, while her weak aura mimics mana, she's unsure if this trick will fool Gaspard. Her father, Gaspar, calls her Rini, and his serious tone makes her worry she's been found out. He declares that she appears to have the qualities of a summer night. Her plan a success, she arrives at a training ground, where a voice urgently calls for everyone to gather. A blonde boy introduces his sister Leonora to a surprised red-haired boy. Standing elegantly under a parasol, Leonora's cute appearance captivates an onlooker. She frowns, realizing her brother Enoch trains with someone she dislikes. The red-haired boy scoffs, unimpressed by her appearance. He dismissively states that all children look the same, revealing himself to be Tristan de Sologulam, the original story's male lead. Enraged, the blonde boy defends his sister, asking if Tristan is blind before pulling her into a tight hug. She struggles to breathe, caught in her brother's fierce embrace. Tristan ignores the hug, coolly asking why his sister is joining their class. Her brother proudly holds her up, announcing that Rini can become a summer knight, leaving Tristan stunned. Tristan finds it strange that two summer knights would emerge from the same family in one generation. The blonde boy asks if it isn't great she can join the Red Wolves, but Rini just looks confused. Tristan watches her with a shrewd, calculating gaze. He smirks condescendingly, remarking that she's just a girl. Rini glares back, internally cursing the arrogant boy. Her brother confronts Tristan for looking down on his sister, and Tristan challenges him back as they grab each other's collars. Just as the confrontation escalates, a teacher's hand separates the two boys. Their sword teacher, Baristan, questions why his sister was scolded when the other side was at fault, confirming there's no competition scheduled. The teacher instructs them to control their auras around the princess, singling out Enoch, which makes Leonora question the discrimination. The teacher takes a seat, deciding to observe how well they've been trained. Enoch stands ready, his sword igniting with a vibrant pink aura. Two boys face off, their auras blazing with power. Watching from the side, she realizes a true summer knight's aura is completely different from her own. She observes the vast difference in skill between her brother and the red-haired boy. The teacher tells Enoch to stop using his aura, but he defiantly insists he can do more. Dismissing his effort, the teacher tells Enoch to stop imitating Tristan as they are fundamentally different. Defeated, Enoch lowers his sword and quietly agrees. Seeing her brother's dejected stance, she silently thinks his form is better. The red-haired boy, Tristan, stands perfectly composed and confident. She notices Tristan hasn't even broken a sweat, thinking it's unlucky as he looks over. Tristan's eye twitches in annoyance as he glares. A sudden hiccup rings out, catching his attention. He strides purposefully toward the little blonde girl, calling her out. Flustered, Tristan demands to know why she is staring at him. As the teacher lectures Enoch, the boy desperately wishes for his sister to save him. Tristan angrily asks if she's laughing at him, but she plays innocent with a sweet smile. Recognizing his typical male lead behavior, she watches as he admits he looked back and demands to know what she said. With wide, innocent eyes, she tells him she was looking because he's so handsome. Stunned by the compliment, Tristan listens as she adds that his eyes are especially pretty. Blushing furiously, he tells her not to look anymore as she timidly apologizes. He softens, telling her there's no need to apologize so much. She panics internally, wondering if she will be punished if she stops apologizing. She reaffirms to herself that this is all for her brother's sake. Her silent plea continues, wishing people would stop bullying her brother. Later, Enoch gives her a piggyback ride and she reflects on his unconditional love while calling his name. She asks him if he wants to become stronger, surprising him. His confusion baffles her, as she can't understand his lack of ambition. Her brother Enoch just smiles happily, carrying her on his back. He cheerfully explains that as the third son, he just wants to eat and play, horrifying her. She worries about the fate that awaits her stupid but beloved brother. A few days later, the scene shifts to a kitchen. Peeking through a doorway, she calls out for someone named Lombardi. A chef appears with a basket, confirming he has prepared what she requested. He asks if it's for secret training, and she confirms that it is. Putting a finger to her lips, she stresses that he must not tell anyone. Walking through the woods, she reflects that Enoch has lost his will due to constant comparisons with Tristan. She decides it's time for her to take action, as her brother's determination is the final barrier. Confidently, she declares that she can create a will for him with her special ability. Arriving at a clearing, she holds her basket and confirms this is the right spot. She authoritatively calls out for Grizzly to appear. A flashback reveals that Enoch was a lazy person in the original story, unlike his busy family. She recalls how Enoch always spent a lot of time playing with her. Remembering her past life, she cringes at his slacker attitude and resolves that he must become stronger. Her eyes narrow with grim certainty, knowing he will die if he remains weak. Back in the present, she again calls for Grizzly to come out. She declares that she knows what makes people stronger. Roar! A massive black bear with glowing red eyes lunges from the forest. She stands her ground, completely unfazed by the ferocious beast. Scolding the bear, she reminds it that playtime comes after training and warns it will be punished. The bear immediately sits, whimpering, as she recalls finding and taming it to help mature Enoch. She gives the bear a command to roll left, and it obediently complies. She praises the bear's performance and offers it a reward. Growlet's stomach rumbles at the sight of honey-pickled fish. The bear happily devours its delicious treat as she watches with a smile. She reflects on the nature of tamers and knows that one day Grizzly will be strong enough to shatter rock. Pondering her abilities, she's surprised at how quickly she was able to tame a monster compared to the original story's heroine. Patting the bear, she confidently declares herself a coaching genius. With Grizzly's training complete, she announces it's now Enoch's turn. She leads the bear deeper into the woods, promising more rewards for its cooperation. The scene shifts to a view from inside a grand room. While studying, a blond boy with red eyes is distracted by a noise outside. Looking out, he's overjoyed to spot his sister Rini waving from below. He watches in horror as Rini suddenly falls, and a new, shocking sight appears just as he promises to come down. Growl! A massive bear looms over his fallen sister, prompting him to scream her name, Leonora. Annoyed by her clumsy fall, she internally praises Grizzly for its excellent acting. Enoch rushes onto the scene, yelling for his sister Leonora to stand up. He reaches her side, anxiously asking if she's okay as she whispers his name. Snap! The sound of a bear paw crushing a branch catches his attention. Enoch stands protectively before his sister, demanding the monster go away as the beast lets out a menacing growl. Confused, Enoch looks back as she internally reveals her plan to use a shielded Grizzly to motivate him. She orders Grizzly to stop, leaving Enoch completely baffled by the command. Growl! The bear ignores her order, and she panics, realizing her plan is failing as Enoch urges her to get up. Seeing his sister's apparent fear, a wave of determination washes over Enoch. He calls out her nickname, Rini. Her purple eyes widen slightly. He pulls his sister into a fierce, protective hug. Tucked safely against his shoulder, she feels his embrace. A subtle, satisfied smile plays on her lips. She hugs him back, realizing he's more scared than she is, and wondering how to salvage the situation. She worries that her plan will fail if Grizzly continues to act so tamely. Thud. Someone else steps onto the scene. The red-haired boy, Tristan, appears, mocking Enoch's pathetic inability to handle a small monster. Tristan coolly orders the monster away, leaving Leonora stunned by his unexpected arrival. Enoch shouts Tristan's name in frustration, while his sister finds the heroic act amusing. As the bear stands confused, she realizes Tristan's words have no effect and decides to give Grizzly a secret cue. She frantically shoos the bear away, ordering it back into the woods. Thinking of more fish, Grizzly happily scampers off as Enoch praises Tristan's supposed power. Enoch thanks Tristan for communicating with the monster, but Tristan curtly replies, "There's no need." She finds it amusing that Grizzly only moved on her command while Tristan seems to be expecting praise. She showers Tristan with compliments about how cool he is, and he smugly asks for more. Tristan tells a somber Enoch that it's time for training, and he reluctantly agrees. She calls out to her brother Enoch. He turns, surprised to hear her voice. She sincerely thanks him for saving her, taking his hand in hers. Touched by her gratitude, Enoch is left speechless. A spark of determination flashes in his eye. She looks on, knowing that his innocent view of the world won't be enough. Later that night, Enoch trains relentlessly, vowing to become stronger. He strains to imbue a stick with his aura, only for it to shatter, sending him tumbling. Undeterred, he picks up his practice sword, ready to go again. A voice from the training grounds asks Enoch why he's pushing himself so hard today. The sword teacher furiously scolds Enoch for his reckless training. Enoch defiantly refuses his teacher's order to stop. He declares his burning desire to become as strong as Tristan. His sister notes his new determination, wondering if the teacher will finally acknowledge him. The teacher shouts, telling Enoch not to misunderstand his potential. He cruelly compares Enoch to Tristan, a natural prodigy, as his sister internally calls him a bad guy. The teacher forbids any training he hasn't taught, as she contemplates a more forceful approach. She recalls how aura capacity is meant to increase through pushing one's limits. She questions how a master-level swordsman could be ignorant of such a basic fact. A deep suspicion forms as she glares, realizing something is very strange. Walking with her brother, she concludes the teacher is intentionally hindering his growth. Enoch is startled by the sight of a white-haired boy in the distance. Recognizing his brother Silby, Enoch wonders where he is going. Silby announces he's leaving, telling the others to go ahead. He sits alone and dejected beneath a large tree. A single tear escapes his eye as he quietly cries. His sister suddenly appears, asking if he's crying. He denies it, but she calls his bluff. He flusters, regretting his harsh tone. She gets closer, gently urging him to tell her what's wrong. He thinks back to her birth, recalling how she was meant to be cared for. His thoughts reveal a deep-seated insecurity. He believes he is his mother's illegitimate child. He clenches his fist, feeling like a coward, unworthy of being her older brother. He apologizes for being distracted by Enoch, as she realizes he's unaware their father considers them all his children. She thinks about how wonderful their father is and how much Silby resembles him. Annoyed, she asks if he is still holding a grudge from when she hurt him before. Resolved, Silby decides he must clear up her misunderstanding immediately. He reassures her that their father sometimes makes mistakes and asks her to follow him. She follows him to the main office where their father is working. Silby tells her to watch him closely as she looks on, confused. He points out a vase, identifying it as Gaspar's most precious possession. Crash, the sound of the shattering vase startles their father. The man stands in shock, calling out for Rinny. He scoops her up, asking if she's okay, while she realizes this plan isn't working. As he checks for injuries, she mentally apologizes for what she's about to do. Pow! She punches her father in the face, shocking Silby. The office is thrown into chaos as furniture topples over. A man in a suit opens the door to the messy scene. Their father snaps, throwing a cushion and yelling her name. Now in a ridiculous disguise, he bellows her full name, horrifying Silby. Holding a bottle, she's surprised to hear her full name for the first time. In the wrecked office, she stands defiantly on the couch as her father fumes. She runs to Silby for protection, exclaiming how scary their father is. Looking at Silby, she observes that their dad is just a normal person who gets angry. Silby looks down at her with a soft, contemplative expression. He steps forward, taking the blame and asking his father not to scold her. Their father demands to know what he means by taking responsibility. Silby stands protectively before his little sister. The scene shifts to a tray of desserts being served. Their father confesses to Silby that he still feels guilty about using his aura near Rini. Clatter. Her father holds his teacup with a somber expression. He reassures them that making mistakes is a natural part of childhood, admitting he isn't perfect either. He tells Silby that it's okay to make mistakes and grow, as Rini munches on a cookie. As she listens, she suddenly remembers something she had forgotten. She recalls the harsh, belittling words from her past life, feeling useless and inadequate. She thinks that if she forgets, she can pretend it never happened. The father continues speaking, his words trailing off. Relieved that Silby's misunderstanding is resolved, she listens as Silby thanks his father, correcting himself. He stiffly addresses his father as Lord. She wonders about the sudden change in atmosphere. She tells Silby that calling their dad Lord will only make him sad. He asks if his eyes are downcast, and her father clears his throat. A surprised Silby asks if that's really true. Their father explains that Lord is too formal, since Silby has no title and can call him whatever he wants. Silby blushes, realizing he can call him Dad too. She eagerly suggests he try calling him Dad. Blushing, the father agrees that Sylvie doesn't need to be so formal. A flustered Sylvie looks on, overwhelmed by the thought. He tentatively calls out, "Dad?" The family sits together in a moment of newfound peace. Startled, their father hesitantly replies, "Yes." Sylvie stammers an excuse, still shyly calling him Dad. She facepalms, exasperated by the stupid boys and their awkwardness. The scene shifts to a wide shot of the grand mansion at night. The focus moves to a quiet study filled with books. Tap. She closes a book, wondering when new content was added. She frets that she can't find information because the original story hasn't progressed. She recalls the emperor from the original story, forbidding the princess from entering the palace. She decides it's best to get someone named Lucas on her side. She resolves to slowly find a solution with Lucas's help. Turning her focus back to the present, she thinks about Enoch. She decides to concentrate on Enoch's training. She worries that theory alone will limit Enoch's growth. Looking at a photo, she wishes she could bring Tristan's real teacher from the original story. A title appears identifying the person as Tristan's real teacher. She laments that the book has no side story, which would contain useful information about Tristan. Thump! Placing her hand on the book, she's shocked by a sudden glow. She realizes a magical seal on the book had been obscured until now. Wah! A bright light erupts from the book. She gasps as the beam of light points toward a specific location. Following the light, she wonders what it's pointing to. The light points directly at Tristan, who wonders what's happening. She eagerly decides to see what the light is showing her. She happily carries the glowing book, ready for an adventure. Arriving at the training grounds, she realizes others can't see the light, and that she came to find Tristan. A green-haired man dismisses Enoch's sword skills as she internally scolds him for spying. Tristan bluntly tells the man to go away, not wanting an audience. Confused by his dismissal, she wonders what to do now that the book has led her here. She takes a small step forward to get his attention. Tristan turns, asking what she wants. Tristan asks what book she's holding, but she knows the content is only visible to her. Confused, he asks why the book is blank, as she gasps, realizing it's shining just for her. She wonders if the book reacts to her touch because the light chose her, resolving to test her theory. She demands the book back, needing to see if anything has changed inside. Tristan glares at her, calling her stare annoying. He scolds her for acting like a coddled child and tells her to hand the book over properly. She realizes with certainty that this must be a side story about Tristan. With wide eyes, she peers into the book. She opens the book, confused by what she sees. Tristan's side story. As she asks for the book back, Tristan is internally captivated by her sparkling eyes and puffy cheeks. His thoughts reveal a powerful, overwhelming urge to touch her. Tristan is horrified by his own thoughts, trying to suppress them. As he holds the book, he can't help but notice her arm is round like a sausage. He sternly declares that he's different, hating all weak things. He cruelly tells her he hates her, her brothers, and her entire clan. He scoffs at the idea their families are of equal rank, as she wonders why he's being so mean. Tristan coldly asks if he is obligated to be nice to her, while she acknowledges he's taking his quote-quote tsundere role too far. Tristan is torn. Part of him finds her adorable and envies Enoch, but his outward thoughts seethe with annoyance. Reading the book, she wonders why Tristan puts up with a certain daily entanglement. The book reveals Tristan's secret longing, a wish for a younger sister of his own. The scene transitions, marking the end of a chapter. The book reveals Tristan's torment, feeling overshadowed by Enoch's stronger aura and pushed by Baristan's reprimands. Lying in bed, she concludes that someone is unfairly discriminating against Enoch, who isn't actually weak. She learns the culprit is Baristan, whose pressure fuels Tristan's obsession with never losing. As she continues reading, she wonders what other secrets the book holds. Thump! She jolts upright in bed, realizing she's reached the part where Tristan meets the mysterious swordsman. A gray-eyed swordsman said, "A mysterious hooded figure advises a young Tristan not to waste energy holding others back." The story confirms he took the swordsman's definitive advice to heart. Tristan asks for the swordsman's name, but the man says he has none and offers discipleship with a condition. The swordsman's challenge is clear. Tristan must prove his ability on National Day. The hooded figure departs, promising to decide then. Wah! Her hand slams down on the book as she realizes who this person is. She identifies the swordsman as Tristan's true teacher and wishes he could teach Enoch instead. She realizes the upcoming National Day Swordsmanship Convention is where she can find him. A clever smile spreads across her face as a plan begins to form. The scene shifts to a grand, sunlit parlor. Outside, Enoch calls out to Rini, asking if she's bored from waiting. She quickly denies being bored. She happily tells Enoch that watching his cool practice wasn't boring at all. Dressed in a new formal coat, she beams with admiration. Enoch looks away, dejected, muttering that he'll never improve no matter how hard he tries. Recalling Baristan's dismissive words, she laments how such constant discouragement has crushed Enoch's confidence. She gently stops his clenched fist before he can strike a tree. Enoch vows to continue working hard, despite his perceived lack of talent. He reaffirms his resolution with a determined expression. He admits his motivation comes from failing to protect her before. His eyes burn with resolve as he declares he must become strong to protect Rini. Moved by his sincerity, she softly speaks his name. She asks what Enoch wants, and he looks at her, confused. With a determined look, she asks if he truly wants to get stronger. A flustered Enoch honestly admits that he does. She offers to make him stronger, leaving him to wonder how she could. She boldly claims she was a great swordsman in her previous life, but he thinks she's dreaming. She boasts about her many disciples and victories, insisting that it's all true. As a dark memory of brutal training surfaces, a worried Enoch stammers for her to stop. Rini observes his naive nervousness, remembering her own role as a villain. Filled with new resolve, Enoch asks to become her disciple. She considers his request, her purple eye gleaming. Agreeing, she warns him the training won't be gentle, and suggests they find a new location. 30 minutes later, the scene shifts to a training post in a field. An exhausted Enoch pleads to stop for the day, utterly spent. She sternly denies his request, declaring he isn't tired. He protests that he is tired, and that Baristan's training was always enough. Rini sharply corrects him, stating his training isn't enough at all. She dismisses everything Baristan said as worthless, shocking Enoch. She brings a whistle to her lips, ready to continue. As punishment for objecting, she announces another round of training, demanding he do it. She explains Soul Knights have superior stamina as he resumes his tired strikes. A new motivation is revealed. This is all for their survival. Days, a week, and a month pass in a training montage, ending with Enoch searching for a hiding Rini. His training has paid off as he calls out her name with a bright smile. Thump! A large menacing bear suddenly appears before him. His bright expression vanishes, replaced by pure terror. He looks up in fear, asking what the monster is. A decorative chapter-end card marks a pause in the story. Back in the woods, a cheerful Enoch calls out for Rini. He stares in horror as he recognizes the formidable bear. A wave of shock hits him as he realizes it's the same demonic beast that attacked Rini. His fear transforms into fierce determination. Without hesitation, he draws his sword to face the monster. Growl. He channels his power, his sword glowing with a blue aura as he attacks. Peeking from behind a tree, Rini thinks proudly that Enoch succeeded as expected. She runs out from her hiding spot, cheering for his amazing feat as he calls her name. Triumphant, Enoch declares that if he can beat Grizzly, he can defeat a monster like Tristan. She internally notes the water barrier helped, but decides to let him enjoy his victory over the now tiny creature. She cheerfully asks if he's done resting, announcing it's time to train again. Stunned, he asks why training isn't over after he just defeated the monster. She declares the real training starts now, revealing the Saloa family is also in special training, causing Enoch to collapse. She smiles confidently, knowing all of Tristan's training secrets from the side story. With a determined glint in her eye, she announces their new goal, winning the swordsmanship tournament. Thump! Enoch is completely dumbfounded by her audacious goal. He sputters that it's impossible for him to win, but she cuts him off, shouting that the Hachiana family is the best. The story reveals Baristan used a retired winter knight to help increase Tristan's aura. A key detail emerges. Using an opposite attribute is the most effective growth method for soul knights. A vision of Sylvester, a white-haired boy, appears as the winter night. Rainy cheerfully waves to Sylvie, finding him in a study. A bewildered Sylvie turns around, confused why she needs him when he hasn't done anything. She turns to Sylvie, confused by his sudden silence. He sadly admits that he thinks she only likes Enoch. She stares in outrage, shocked by his accusation. She happily explains she's only been playing with Enoch recently. Feigning distress, she pleads for Sylvie to save her. Filled with regret, Sylvie realizes he shouldn't have said that. He hesitantly asks what she wants from him. She makes her simple request, for him to play with her and Enoch. She beams, overjoyed by her successful persuasion. And with that, the day of the meeting arrives. The scene shifts to the magnificent Hichania estate. Startled, she's abruptly woken and told to get ready. As two maids chatter about love, she grumbles that it's too early. A man carries the sleepy girl, reminding her of the elders' meeting. Her eyes widen at the mention of the elders' meeting. As her hair is brushed, she wonders why the meeting is here. She suspects the meeting might be about her true origins. Knowing the elders might betray her, she resolves to make a good impression. The story flashes back to the collapse of Hichania, caused by internal problems. The downfall began after Gaspar's failed revolt. A vision shows a defeated man slumping against a wall. She understands that changing this tragic future will require a massive effort. While dressing her, a maid worries if this pressure constitutes child abuse. Even so, the preparations must continue. Dressed in elegant shoes, she takes a determined step forward. She steels her resolve, determined to remain vigilant. Leading her maids, she announces that it's time to go. They proceed down a grand and sparkling hallway. A young man named Henry waits with a serious expression. She cheerfully greets Henry just as Enoch runs up, calling her name. Stunned by his formal wear, she listens as he calls her cute. Enoch stands proudly in his splendid new outfit. He smiles warmly, but questions the need to dress up for other families. An attending man asks if Count Ardel's lady will be present. The elder of Ardel regretfully informs him that his lady is unwell. Two guests gossip that the lady's powerful water magic often makes her sick. Another man praises her rare talent and wishes for her speedy recovery. Enoch explains that Sylvie has an exam, leaving just the two of them. The elder of Ardel looks tense as he affirms she will recover. An unsettling thought begins to form in her mind. She wonders if their talk about a sickly but talented lady implies her. A guest remarks it's better to have talent than a healthy but useless body. Another elder angrily confronts the man for his callous nonsense. Winking, the elder of Ardel insists he wasn't wrong. Wham! The man is struck by a sudden hot blast of fire aura. A maid panics as Rini calmly summons a ball of purple aura. She declares her family will now live by his motto, talent over health. The elders gasp in shock, wondering if she's a genius for using aura at her age. The enraged elder of Ardel accuses her of attacking him as Enoch shields her. She looks down sadly, explaining she only wanted to show him what they wanted to see. Rainey offers a sweet, confident smile. A brown-haired baron angrily demands a real apology. A white-haired elder, Baron Roden, and another man argue. The elder defends Rini, saying her apology was sincere for a child, but the baron is furious. The duke arrives, sternly asking what the noise is about. The white-haired elder, Garden, asks the duke if he knows his daughter has a summer knight's qualities. The duke asks Garden why he never mentioned it, admitting he didn't realize its significance. The duke explains Leonora is a direct descendant, but he couldn't predict when her powers would awaken. A blonde-haired man passionately declares that in an age of fading magic, the young lady is their greatest hope. Reedy watches the proceedings with a serious expression. As a narrator explains the rarity of soul knights, Reedy decides it's time to fuel the fire. She conjures a glowing purple snowflake sigil in her hand. Oh, the Council of Elders stares in complete shock at Rini's display of power. The elders erupt in praise, calling her a legendary soul master with an ice aura. Rini scoffs, remembering how they once called her an illegitimate child. A woman with brown hair calls out Lala, getting Rini's attention. Rennie hugs the woman, telling her she's sleepy. The elders plead for one more demonstration of her power, but Rennie thinks she's done enough to identify her true allies. The white-haired elder desperately asks to see her power again. Stop. The Duke's hand clamps down on the elder's shoulder, halting him. The Duke coldly states that his daughter is tired. The elder confronts the Duke, arguing the clan's future is more important than her being sleepy. Seriously? The Duke thinks how dare a vassal be so rude to the patriarch. Wah. A dark aura erupts from the Duke in a flash of surprise. Ugh. Engulfed in shadow, he grabs the elder's collar, menacingly asking what he just said. He effortlessly lifts the struggling elder off the ground. The Duke calmly contemplates chopping off the man's head, questioning if he isn't Lucas now. Rennie's caretaker covers the girl's eyes, thinking his handsome face is a trick. A narration reveals the Duke is possessed by Gaspar, the Shadow Knight, whose aura is difficult to control. Rennie struggles, wondering how such a powerful figure lost to Gregor, as a man begs the Duke to calm down. Arga, panicked Rennie, realizes her father is about to kill the man. Father? She calls out, snapping him out of his rage. Rennie rushes forward and grabs onto her father's leg. The elder pleads it's for the clan, but Rennie knows the truth. Her father simply won't tolerate being defied. A swift kick is delivered. The elder collapses, knocked unconscious. Her father, now calm, turns and declares the meeting cancelled. Rennie cheekily tells them all to go away, privately amused by her father's bluntness. He turns to her, and she looks back, slightly startled. Rennie confronts him, asking if he's crazy and reminding him of his lies, while he nonchalantly thinks about running away once he has his mana back. Wah, frustrated Rennie, reminds him of their alliance. She frantically insists he must help her figure out who is possessing him, just as he promised. Looking down at her, the Duke observes that they look quite similar. What? He notes she doesn't call him father when they're alone, making Rennie question if she should, while he thinks she acts like she hates all children. Rennie is stunned into silence by his accurate observation. The Duke turns away with a heavy look. His red eyes reveal a deep, lingering sadness. Blushing, Rennie promises not to call him that again and begs him not to hate her. The Duke simply states that he is leaving now. Alone, the Duke covers his face in his hands, whispering, "I'm the person." Back in her room, Rennie reflects on the tiring day and decides to check the original novel's plot before sleeping. Footsteps echo through the empty, ornate hall. Wah! Startled awake, Rennie wonders who's visiting so late and decides to feign sleep. A pair of shoes quietly enters her darkened room. Two maids peek in, with the brown-haired one noting that she's already asleep, while the other concludes she's exhausted from the incident with the elders. The brown-haired maid agrees, admitting she was taken aback by the Duke's uncharacteristically harsh behavior, as he's usually so merciful. As Rennie pretends to sleep, one of the maids whispers to her companion, Lulu, that this is a big problem. Rennie's eyes fly open in shock as she overhears a maid say she isn't being sent to the Imperial Palace, which is why His Majesty is angry. The maids continue their discussion, revealing the Emperor is using document mistakes to pressure the family, which has been struggling since the Madam's ship was wrecked. Rennie listens in disbelief. Learning the Emperor is pressuring them because he knows the Duke's family is in debt, Rennie sits bolt upright in absolute shock. With a determined look, Rennie stands with her arms crossed, angrily wondering if the Emperor is trying to take their property. Rennie confronts her father in the hallway, asking where he heard the news and if this is because she isn't going to the palace. A flashback explains that to spare Marquis Iron financial ruin after he lost his daughter, Gaspar took on the trading losses from the sunken ships. Her father kneels before her with a concerned look, asking Rennie, "Are you all right?" Rennie panics, shouting for her father and asking if they're going to become poor. Her father sternly replies, "No," before asking her what she means. Held by her father, Rennie clarifies that she's not suggesting he send her to get the money, explaining that as his official daughter, her mindset has changed. She reasons that even if she goes to the palace, the family is doomed without her, so it's all the same. Looking up at her father with a bright smile, Rennie declares, "Father, I want to hang out somewhere." Her true intention is revealed, finding another way to protect the family's property. The scene transitions to a bright sky, introducing Ardell, the city of entertainment and pleasure. The opulent Ardell estate is shown, a narration explaining that Count Ardell's family is one of the 5 great, wealthy aristocrats. A seal of stars confirms their immense wealth. Rini recalls the original novel, where Inez cured the Count's daughter and was rewarded with wealth and a powerful alliance. She worries that the original hero, Ains, is too young to leave the palace, wondering how the plot can proceed. With a confident smile, Rini decides she will be the one to cure the Count's daughter instead. Her determination flickers for a moment as she hesitates. Turning, she's surprised to see Tristan and asks why he's there. A maid cheerfully explains that the young master also had business in Ardell, prompting an annoyed Rini to wonder if his family doesn't own carriages. Tristan blushes, claiming it was too crowded to travel otherwise, but Rini knows he has other motives. As the maid offers her snacks and reassurances about their finances, Rini privately thinks Tristan won't visit anymore once her family is poor. Tristan overhears her concerns about the family's property. He watches her with a serious and contemplative expression. Munching on a pastry, Rini notes that rumors seem to spread quickly. She continues to eat, while Tristan watches her, captivated. A narration reveals that to a smitten Tristan, even her breathing is adorable. A close-up highlights the intricate brooch on Tristan's uniform. The carriage curtains flutter, marking a transition in the journey. Rini thinks to herself that she can rest assured because he is very wealthy. The maid announces their arrival as the carriage door opens to reveal the city of Ardell. Stepping down from the carriage, Rini gasps in awe at the sight before her. She gazes up at the magnificent Ardell estate while the bustling city unfolds below. The scene pans over a lively and crowded marketplace. Overwhelmed by the smells and sounds, Rini covers her mouth and nose. A concerned Tristan offers her a clean white handkerchief. He advises her to cover her nose, and she accepts with a quiet thank you. A blonde-haired boy calls her name, interrupting Rini's internal grumbling that she was just enjoying the smell of money. The blonde-haired boy looks on, confused by the scene. He notices the handkerchief in her hand and curiously asks what it is. As Rini explains Tristan gave it to her, the blonde boy is consumed by a dark, jealous rage. He furiously commands her to throw it away, snatches it from her hand, and tosses it to the ground as she stares in shock. Rini furiously asks Enoch why he ruined a perfectly good handkerchief. He begins to explain his actions. The narration states that brothers are their sister's knights. Enoch kneels, formally presenting the handkerchief to her. A floral background sets a tender mood. Ah, her purple eye sparkles with sudden understanding. She realizes the handkerchief has a deeper meaning. She remembers how Tristan gave his handkerchief to Inez in the original story. That gift symbolized his love and loyalty. She dismisses the gesture, thinking he's too young to understand it. Enoch looks up, suddenly angry and flustered by her reaction. A red-haired Tristan angrily confronts them as Enoch shields Rini. Tristan internally observes his sibling's recent annoying behavior, wondering if his training is too harsh. The scene changes to a magnificent villa at sunset. Standing in a hallway, she thinks something feels strange. She sees Tristan, who looks profoundly sad. She realizes Tristan has been unhappy since arriving in Adele. Annoyed by her thoughts, she uses magic to shrink a book. She recalls a memory of a stern-looking Baristan. The memory is of Tristan's brutal training, of thousands of sword swings. He was forced to train until his hands were bloody. Baristan showed no mercy, constantly pushing him. Another part of the memory surfaces. An instructor kicks the collapsed Tristan, calling him an embarrassment. Duke Saloa coolly tells the man to stop. The Duke coldly dismisses Tristan as too pathetic to watch. He cruelly compares Tristan's weakness to Zachary Hachania's genius. Called useless, Tristan clenches his fist in silent shame. Back in the present, Rini ponders this harsh memory. Thwump! She slams the book shut, realizing his terrible upbringing made him deviant. She acknowledges that this situation is a familiar one. It's a classic, tragic backstory for a novel's male lead. Despite knowing it's a trope, she can't simply ignore it. Clasping her book, she steels her resolve. She reflects on her own simple existence as a side character. She accepts that the boy's suffering is a harsh reality. Her gaze hardens with a new sense of purpose. She decides to find a reason to chase him away, Assuming he's a classic villain, she goes looking for his misdeeds. Her investigation takes her to Ardell's Gold Rush Casino. A white-haired manager cheerfully greets Barristan. The manager notices Tristan and asks Barristan who the boy is. Tristan stands by silently, his expression unreadable. Barristan proudly introduces Tristan as the Duke's son. He insists they prepare a table, claiming all nobles visit the casino. Peeking from behind a pillar, a hooded Rini recognizes the madman. She is disgusted that Barristan would bring a child to a casino. She realizes Barristan is not just bad, but utter trash. She reminds herself to be careful against a master-level opponent. As Barristan welcomes his guest inside, the cloaked Rini follows. The scene opens on a table laden with alcohol. A white-haired man smiles with cunning satisfaction. At a table with a bearded man, the white-haired man suggests they discuss business with Sir Barristan, to which the bearded man agrees. As the bearded man begins to detail his preparations, a knock interrupts him. A blonde-haired woman enters the room, apologizing to Sir Barristan. As she stumbles in distress, the bearded man angrily demands to know who interrupted their important discussion. Rini appears, looking ill, and pointedly asks Sir Barristan if he made children drink alcohol. She glances at the distressed woman, thinking about her true situation. Rini realizes with certainty that the woman is a captive slave. The bearded man dismissively questions if slavery is even illegal, suggesting they just kick the girl aside. Fortunately, Rini thinks, she brought a magical recording device with her. She discreetly presses a button, activating the device. The flustered, bearded man tries to steer the conversation back to business. Introducing himself as an assistant to the Duke Siloa family, he presents a pouch of glowing orbs, claiming there are 37 Aurora Stones. Rini gasps in shock, exclaiming, "Aurora Stone?" Sir Barristan counts only 36 pieces, prompting a sinister laugh from the bearded man. The bearded man reveals he brought the red-haired boy Tristan to provide 4 more Aurora Stones through extraction. Sir Barristan is stunned, realizing he means to extract the Aurora from the young master. The bearded man smirks, noting that the freshest Aurora will surely cost 10 times more. Sir Barristan agrees to the price, but nervously asks if it's all right for Tristan to hear their plan. The bearded man reassures him not to worry, while Tristan sits unresponsive. Rini realizes Tristan was hypnotized before arriving, recalling a glimpse of an evil-looking white-haired man. She worries that forcibly extracting a soul, Knight's Aurora, could shorten their life. Aurora Stone is a precious ore containing mana, often traded illegally for money. A massive, shimmering pile of gold coins illustrates its value. Rini glares, angered to discover these men are the ones behind the illegal extraction. Sir Barristan approaches the silent Tristan, holding a glowing potion. The bearded man toasts, boasting that this deal will pay off his gambling debts, and offers 20 times the price for the ore. Sir Barristan smiles cruelly, holding a glowing extraction tool and declaring it's time to begin. He places a glowing pink gem on Tristan's forehead. As Rini confirms the recording is complete, she notes the device looks like an ore extractor. With a worried expression, she whispers Tristan's name. She remembers that Tristan is a character destined to cause her family's downfall. Crawling to Tristan's side, Rini plans to inject mana into his chin to break the hypnosis. She bites down hard on his shoe. Quadruple A, Tristan screams as a jolt of energy courses through his body. Both Sir Barristan and the bearded man are startled by his sudden awakening. Sir Barristan rushes over to the dazed Tristan, asking him what's wrong. Touching the gem on his head, Tristan looks around in confusion. He silently wonders who these men are and what they are doing to him. His confusion quickly turns to a furious glare. Sir Barristan asks the bearded man to hypnotize Tristan again, but the man refuses. Barristan explains he can't, since he wasn't the one who hypnotized Tristan. Tristan then asks his teacher what hypnosis is. The bearded man dismisses the question, insisting they were only doing meditation training and calling Tristan an idiot. He gestures to the gems, asking why Tristan doesn't recognize the ore extractor and stones. Tristan's teacher angrily demands to know if his student is doubting him. He lectures Tristan, claiming his distrust is a chronic problem and that a student must trust his teacher. Rini fumes silently, thinking that to be trusted, one must first act reliably. Tristan tries to explain that the situation is suspicious, but his teacher cuts him off, demanding he stop. The teacher's dark inner thought is revealed. He doesn't trust others either. Barristan coldly tells Tristan his mother abandoned him. The cruel words send a shockwave through the red-haired boy. Ah! Watching from afar, Rini recalls the truth from the original novel. In the past, Tristan's mother was exiled due to the Duke's scheme. He wanted a new wife, leaving Tristan to believe he was abandoned. From a window, a young Tristan watches his mother being led away. It was only much later that Ines found his mother and cleared the misunderstanding. Back in the casino, Barristan taunts Tristan, telling him to trust people more or be abandoned again. Tristan quietly submits as Rini fumes, disgusted by Barristan's cruelty. Slam Barristan places a small box on the table, declaring he brought the boy for a reason. A new voice startles Barristan and the manager, asking about the little Duke's ore as the manager points toward the source. Tristan presents the ore to a guest, who internally vows to pay 20 times its worth to clear his debts. Furious, Barristan shouts at Tristan, questioning his audacious interference. Tristan realizes Barristan's true plan was to sell the ore and wonders what would happen if the truth came out. His eyes widen in sudden, horrified realization. Caught, Barristan stammers that his actions were for Tristan's success. Tristan coldly dismisses him, stating they'll settle this in court. Realizing the situation is escalating, Rini decides it's time to escape. Barristan calls Tristan an arrogant kid, but the white-haired manager chides Barristan for his greed. The manager blames Barristan's gambling debts for the mess, offering to pay an entrance fee to smooth things over. He turns to a blonde woman, telling someone named Celia it's time to leave. Celia obediently replies to the manager. She pauses for a moment, looking down thoughtfully. Her eyes meet Rini's hiding spot, making the girl freeze. The manager calls for Celia, who points out there are feet nearby. Celia smiles to herself, thinking how cute baby feet are. In a panic, Rini realizes her colorful shoes have given her away. And with that, the chapter comes to a dramatic close. As the manager remarks on the cute feet, a confused barista wonders what he's talking about. She gasps, startled by the sudden capture. Barristan holds her up, greeting her suspiciously as she feigns ignorance. He furiously demands to know how she found the casino, accusing her father of sending her. Celia rushes to intervene, pleading with Barristan to calm down. He violently shoves Celia aside, shouting at the slave to stay away. Celia checks on Rini, who internally worries for the woman's safety. Barristan discusses an offer with the manager, considering whether to buy Celia. The manager cheerfully produces a slave control tool, which Barristan accepts. Turning to Celia, he gives her the first order from her new master. He commands her to kill Rini. Rini realizes his horrific plan, use Celia as a scapegoat to eliminate her. Terrified, Celia cries that she can't and won't do it. Barristan activates the control tool, forcing his command as she screams in agony. Magic shocks Celia's body as she begs him not to hurt the baby. The manager callously complains that the slave is shoddy and demands a discount. He coldly calls Celia's name as he looks down at her suffering. Celia thinks of her own child as Rini realizes the woman is being blackmailed. Knowing she can't let this happen, Rini tells Celia to stop. Celia looks up in tearful confusion. Zap. A spark of magic erupts from Rini's shoe. With a powerful kick, Rini sends the bearded man flying, yelling, "Huh?" In shock. The man collapses as a voice screams about his face, his staff clattering to the floor. Rini stands confidently, thinking he underestimated her and that the electric attack will definitely hurt. As the bearded man convulses on the floor, the white-haired man, Sir Barristan, watches in surprise. Rini recognizes the fallen staff as a slave control tool. She moves to smash the gem on her shoe, determined to get rid of it. Sir Barristan smirks, revealing the tool is useless unless he terminates the slave contract himself, leaving Rini stunned. The captive blonde woman stands before Rini, bravely vowing to denounce them for illegal slavery. Sir Barristan scoffs, asking for proof, but Tristan declares that he has it. With a smug laugh, Sir Barristan reveals his confidence. Duke Saloa is the main investor in his corporation. Rini is horrified, realizing Duke Saloa is complicit in his schemes. Torn, she realizes this is her chance to expose Barristan, but worries for the captive woman's safety if she flees alone. Sir Barristan mockingly offers to sell the woman, Celia, knowing no one will believe a child's accusations. Clasping her chest, Rinny realizes she must use her secret weapon. She pulls out a silver whistle, thinking she just needs to reach her father. In a flashback, her father explains he enhanced her whistle with ore, amplifying its sound so she can always call for him. A piercing beep fills the room as Rinny blows the whistle, annoying Sir Barristan. As the sound echoes through the city, Rinny anxiously wonders if her father will be summoned immediately. Sir Barristan glares at the princess, while Rinny resolves to prepare for what's next. She begins to cry theatrically, banking on the fact that children often cry for no reason. Sir Barristan finds her sudden change in behavior odd, as Rinny forces herself into character, believing her father will rush to her side if he sees her upset. Just as she wonders when he'll arrive, she hears a strange sound. With a deafening crash, the ceiling above them explodes inward. Sir Barristan stares at the ruined roof in horror, while Rinny realizes this destructive entrance isn't her father's style. A mysterious dark-haired man stands silhouetted against the night sky atop the debris. The man's sharp red eyes survey the scene below. Through her tears, Rinny looks up and tentatively calls out for her dad. The man approaches, announcing, "I'm here," but Rinny recognizes him in shock. It's Lucas. The question hangs in the air. Why has he come here? As Lucas holds her, a stunned Rinny asks why he's there. He gently chides her to wipe her nose, but she dismisses it as unimportant. Sir Barristan panics, realizing the formidable Duke of Hachania has arrived. Rinny clutches the Duke's coat, wondering about his intensely serious expression. The gambling den lies in ruins, cards and chips scattered across the floor. Holding his daughter, the Duke demands to know why she was crying in a gambling house, as Rinny prompts Barristan to confess. Sir Barristan shrieks, frantically insisting it's all a misunderstanding. He desperately lies, claiming he was merely helping a lost little girl find an inn. Grabbing the blonde woman, he presents her as the maid he assigned to help Rinny. Lies, Rinny shouts, pointing an accusing finger and exposing his illegal slave trading. Flustered, Sir Barristan pleads with the Duke, asking if he'd really believe a child. The Duke calmly replies, "Of course I believe my daughter," as he unleashes a wave of power that sends Sir Barristan flying. Barristan screams a warning that attacking him in Ardell will ignite a war, but the Duke remains unmoved. Rinny notes Barristan's skill as a con artist and decides there's no other way. The Duke nonchalantly declares, "We shall go to war then," shocking everyone in the room. Rinny stares in utter disbelief, exclaiming, "What?" She struggles to stop her father, who coolly asks why he should. Tugging on his leg, she desperately reminds him they don't have enough legal evidence to punish Barristan. Her eyes narrow with sudden determination. An object flies through the air, and Rinny catches it, wondering what just appeared out of nowhere. She stares at the golden device in her hand, recognizing it as the artifact Tristan took. Tristan stands in a formal uniform, a sense of unease washing over him. Blushing slightly, he wonders aloud if she was trying to help him. He quickly dismisses the idea, turning away to change the subject. Tristan's father appears, asking if it's true they have evidence to carry out a punishment. Good. The Duke's eyes glow with red intent as a piercing scream echoes through the night. Looking up through the destroyed building, Rinny thinks Lucas is ruthless, but is glad he's on her side. Her eyes widen in sudden remembrance. With the chaos settled, she remembers an overlooked detail: the terrified, kneeling Celia. Rinny questions Celia about her child, who confirms her baby is in danger at the Brennan orphanage without the manager. A storm of determination gathers around Rinny as she considers the infamous orphanage. She recalls that the orphanage was a horrible setting in the original novel. It was a front for nobles and slave owners to extract magical aura from children, and it housed the world's strongest weapon. Deciding this was always part of her plan, she reaches out and asks Celia to come with her. She stands before the kneeling woman, vowing to help save her child. Celia tearfully asks if she means it, and Rinny agrees, privately admitting it's for her own benefit. The Duke coldly asks what to do with the woman, prompting Rinny to worry he dislikes Celia for being a slave. Celia speaks up, confidently declaring she can be a great guide for the young lady. She explains that as a former gypsy in the Ellen Empire, she is multilingual, though Rinny's father seems to question her profession. Rini vouches for Celia's talent, pleading with her father, who listens with a severe expression. Celia humbly states she's not qualified to serve someone as kind and beautiful as the young lady. She adds that she can sense Rini's noble, warm manner, which piques the Duke's interest. The Duke suddenly agrees his daughter is indeed kind and cute, leaving Rini flustered by his change of heart. As Celia offers her thanks, Rini wonders why Lucas gave in so easily, her full name Leonora Hachania noted. Gasp. In the midst of the discussion, she remembers she forgot about Tristan. She finds him looking grim, and he asks what she wants, making her worry that he looks worse than ever. Tristan asks why she helped him when it wasn't in her family's best interest. His private thoughts reveal his confusion, wondering why she'd help someone so useless. Still, a bright image of Rini shows his lingering hope. He questions how a child could use magic and find him, making Rini realize he's suspicious. Panicked, Rini decides she needs to distract him immediately. She looks up at him and declares it's because she really likes him. What? Tristan is left completely speechless by her sudden confession. A flowery bubble clarifies her statement. She helped because she likes him. Rini herself seems surprised by what she just said. She throws her arms around a stunned Tristan in a heartfelt hug. Overwhelmed and blushing furiously, Tristan's mind goes blank. Observing from a distance, the Duke watches the scene unfold as a dark aura begins to crackle. The story continues in the county of Ardell. A blue-haired man, the Count of Ardell, lets out a tired yawn. The Duke and Rini, now in a pink dress, sit formally on a sofa. The Count stares in disbelief, asking if the Duke truly destroyed an entire building by himself. The Duke answers with casual indifference. Ack. Rini squeezes a pillow in quiet frustration. The Count notices her agitation and asks if something is wrong. Rini smiles sweetly, thinking it seems her father's legs have gone numb from sitting so properly. She corrects her father's manners, reminding him that Count Ardell is the head of a noble house. The Duke offers a stiff apology and asks to pay for the damages, his arrogance still showing. The Count dismisses the apology, insisting he should have dealt with the illegal activities himself. The Duke calmly sips his tea, stating no thanks are needed as they helped each other. The scene shows a room filled with medicine, revealing clear evidence of the Count's daughter's severe illness. The Duke mentions he's heard that the Count's daughter is often sick. Rini thinks it's the perfect time to act, saying she was looking forward to meeting Laureline, which surprises the blue-haired Count Ardell. The Count smiles, happy to report that his daughter Laureline is feeling better today. He kindly invites them to meet his daughter, since they've traveled all the way to Ardell. Through a sunlit window, a young blue-haired girl is seen sitting alone in a beautiful gazebo. The blue-haired girl cheerfully introduces herself as Laureline Ardell to Lady Hachania. With a sweet smile, Laureline expresses that it is an honor to finally meet her. Rini waves hello, internally acknowledging that she's finally met Laureline. Rini recalls a detail from the novel. Laureline will one day become a great sorcerer, earning the title Laureline of the Water's Radiance. Laureline says she wants to have fun, but worries her sudden illness might ruin things, prompting Rini to think this is a frequent occurrence. Rini quickly reassures her that Laureline's health is far more important. Taking her hand, Rini tells the girl it's okay to get upset or cry when she's in pain. Touched and blushing, Laureline quietly agrees, while Rini settles into her chair at the elegant tea table. She blissfully thinks that it's been forever since she's had tea time in peace. The scene lingers on the peaceful tea setting, complete with white roses. Rini reflects on her reincarnation into the world of the novel, The Rosy Life of the Princess. Her thoughts drift to her packed schedule of mana manipulation and training with Enoch and Sylvie. Sipping her tea, Rini feels she'd need 10 reincarnations to save everyone and decides to savor this moment of peace. Cough! Cough! A sudden sound startles Rini, who turns to ask Laureline if she's all right. Covering her mouth, a pale Laureline apologizes to Rini. Rini stares with deep concern, her mind turning to the reason for Laureline's illness. A flashback reveals the cause, a disease called mana overflow, visualized as a cracked orb of energy. Lorelei insists she's all right now and apologizes for making Rini worry. Rini thinks about her original plan to wait before revealing the cure. Deciding Laureline's well-being is paramount, Rini prepares to reveal the truth, but is interrupted by a new voice greeting Laureline. Loreline is surprised by the arrival of Lord Braynon, and Rini freezes in shock at the name. The owner of the Braynon orphanage appears, a white-haired man whom Rini recognizes as the novel's #1 villain. An interlude provides a brief pause in the narrative. The white-haired villain arrives at their table, asking about the adorable lady as Rini panics internally. Loreline introduces Rini as Lady Hachania, and Rini gives a dismissive HMPH. Oh, Braynon recognizes Rini as the rumored lady who exhibited the talents of a summer night. Chills run down Rini's spine as she realizes he's interested in her fake aura, just like her exploitative father from her past life. Braynon asks if she knows about the beauty of a summer night's aurora stone, describing it like burning flames as he gulps. He reaches out, asking if she would like to see her own aurora stone. Rini flatly refuses, thinking he must believe she'd willingly let him take her life. Loreline explains that extracting aurora and mana is actually good for one's health. Flinch, Rini stares in disbelief, asking what she just heard. This new information shocks Rini, as it was never mentioned in the original story. Loreline clarifies that she has been extracting mana since she was young to treat her turbulent mana. She credits Marquess Braynon for the knowledge, who smiles slyly as Rini silently curses him. Tup! Rini stands abruptly, realizing he's using medical treatment as an excuse to exploit someone, just like Barristan. Tup! Shouting, "Bad boy!" Rini leaps at the man, who cries out in surprise. Tap. Stunned, he recoils, demanding to know what she is doing. Rini grabs a handful of his hair, innocently asking why it's so dusty. The man stammers in confusion as Lorelai giggles, explaining his hair color might make it look like that. Frustrated, the man sighs and says it's time to begin extracting the mana stones. Clack. He opens a case to reveal a sparkling, ornate golden bottle. Rini immediately recognizes the bottle as being similar to the one Barristan used on Tristan. Calling the bottle a toy, Rini snatches it from the man's hands and lets it drop. Shatter. The ornate golden bottle crashes into pieces on the stone ground. The white-haired man clutches his head, screaming in despair over his expensive extractor. Oops. Rini feigns innocence, casually remarking that it broke and it's too bad. A sly hair escapes her as she hides a satisfied smile. Loreline stares at the scene, utterly speechless and bewildered. Tup, the man furiously confronts Rini, yelling about how expensive the bottle was. Grab. He seizes her arm as she internally scoffs at his pathetic outburst. Rini silently questions why all the villains in this world treat children worse than commodities. She concludes it's simply because they're villains, as a breeze sweeps through the garden. FWSH Rini's father, the Duke, suddenly appears with a furious expression,